Do you have a question about your business that you want answered? I will happily answer it. Every once in a while on my Instagram, I post a call for your questions that I will answer on the podcast. That's what we're going to do today. It's a Q&A episode. We're going to talk about benefits and features of your handmade products, specifically quilts. We're going to talk about blogging as a business model. We're also going to talk about how to keep control of sales so that you don't grow too fast or you kind of slow down sales if they're going too fast for you. Welcome to Explore Your Enthusiasm, episode 213. Episode 213 with me, Tara Swiger. I'm super happy to have you here. As you know, I teach about how to build a business you love, and that includes mindset, confidence, profitability, goal setting, marketing. From time to time, I answer the questions you have. So let's get started with a question. So you can follow me on Instagram. I'm Tara Swiger, and about once a month or so I post a hey, do you have a question? I'll answer it for you. So make sure you're following me and make sure you have turned on notifications if you want to make sure you don't miss your chance to ask your question. So first up, we have Kaliki Creations. It's Nicole. I know Nicole. She has an awesome business. She says, how do you feel or like blogging as a business model? So writing blog posts and having a shop added to your site with your handmade products. Then she says, thanks, Tara. Now, I asked a follow-up question for Nicole because I know she makes these really awesome bags. And so I asked her, do you mean blogging as a business model or as a marketing tool? What you described here is more of a blog as a tool, but your biz model is selling products. And she followed up with, Tara Swiger, as a business model, being blogging the core activity of your business and earning money, not, for example, with affiliate links, but with your own products. So I don't want to argue too much over semantics, not even argue, but I don't want to talk too much over semantics, but I do want to say that your business model is how you make money. And blogging as a business model, how you make money is you get traffic, which means like eyeballs, and then you sell those eyeballs to advertisers. That's the business model of blogging as a business model. You can also use blogging as a marketing tool. And by the way, this is true for podcasts as well. A lot of podcasts have ads on them. Their goal is to get enough listeners to then sell those listeners' attention to advertisers. So the advertisers give them money, and in exchange, they're getting people's attention, and they're getting sometimes a boost because people trust the podcaster. So then they trust the advertiser and they're more likely to go buy from the advertiser. This is how your TV shows work. This is how lots of things, this is how newspapers, magazines all work, is that they work at creating content that gets your attention, and then your attention is sold to advertisers. That's blogging as a business model. So a product business model has really, really different financials. So if you hand make a product, then what you're doing is you're spending money on your supplies, and then you're selling your product at a big enough profit margin to cover your supplies and all your time that you spend not only making that product, but also marketing it. You can then choose to advertise in places where there's already attention. You can also do, instead of paying for advertising, you can also do, you give gifts to people who already have attention and they talk about it. You can partner up with people who already have attention, either to create a giveaway for them or to create a custom product, or, you can even collaborate and they can help you create a product. There's a bunch of ways to get your product in front of places that already have attention. But what Nicole is talking about, I think, is basically acting like a blogger, like the kind of blogger who has the business model of getting a big audience to then sell that audience something with affiliate links or with advertising. But her business model, how she's making money, is actually selling her bags. That's where the profit is. So the reason why I clarified that is because I want to be really clear that blogging at a product-based business have really different models, and by models I mean expenses and ways to make money. and they're going to have different goals. So hopefully as I was describing this, you understood like, oh, the goal of a blogger is to get more attention, get more readers. This isn't a bad thing. This is like what their business model is like, so that then they can charge more for the advertisers on their site. The goal of a product maker is to, in all of her marketing, speak directly to people who are going to buy her product and get an audience of people who specifically want to buy that product. Not just an audience of people, but an audience of buyers. So that's like a big distinction. So that's kind of me answering that question of what I think and feel about it, as I think that there are two different goals. However, a blog, a podcast, a YouTube channel, an Instagram feed, all beautiful ways for you to be a content creator, focus on creating content, and connect with your right buyer. So yes, having a blog that then leads people to trust you and want to have a relationship with you and exchange money for value of your product makes a lot of sense. All of these things, by the way, Instagram, blogging, podcast, YouTube, they're all content creation to build relationships. The slight difference is that a blogging like business model is to build readership that then trusts you and what you advertise to them. Whereas a product maker's focus is going to be building relationships with people who want to buy the kind of thing they sell. So if you have just a lifestyle blog, you can sell butter. I've seen butter do like sponsored posts on some baking lifestyle kinds of blogs. You can sell party supplies, you can sell bags, you can sell jewelry, you can sell t-shirts. You're selling it by actually selling the advertising to other businesses who make those products. So that is like, that's what you want to think about. A lot of times when people make these big lifestyle blogs, it's because they're not just selling one narrow product line, they're selling a bunch. That said, creating content that creates relationship is one of the kind of most fundamental ways to market online. It's creating great content, treating yourself as if you're a professional blogger or podcaster or YouTube is a fabulous way of building an audience of people who trust you and want to buy your products. That's awesome. Totally great. What you want to keep in mind though is that your blog is really, really focused on the same target market as your company, your handmade products are. So if you sell high-end handmade bags, you wouldn't want to do a blog that focused on budgeting, right? Or coupon cutting or shopping at Walmart. You'd want to make sure that your whatever you blog about is going to be specifically for the same person who's going to buy your bags. And that's really, really important to keep in mind. So I have all kinds of topics I want to talk about on this podcast, but this podcast is in association with the classes and workshops and books I sell at taraswiger.com. So it doesn't make sense for me to blog a lot about things that aren't related, or podcast rather, about things that are going to be for a different kind of person than the person who I know is my best customer. Does that make sense? So even though the podcast is a huge part of my life and it's a huge part of a thing I love to do, I'm creating content specifically for the people who are most likely to be my best customers. And I know who that is by just getting to know my customers over years. So in the beginning, you might not know. Your blog might be about a bunch of different things. And the more you get to know your best customers and not just your best readers, the more your blog and Instagram and everything can grow and change around that. But yes, focusing on quality content, always a good plan for building relationships with people who are going to be your buyers. Notice I'm not saying building an audience. I'm saying building relationships with people who will be your buyers. So yes, just focus on creating great content specifically aimed at those people, and consistency and high quality, and you'll be well on your way. So Devoted Quilter says, you answered one of my questions before. Thank you. So you may want to skip, but I'll ask anyway. I understand the difference between features and benefits when I'm talking about my quilt patterns, but I have trouble applying it. For example, I include the finished size of the quilt and the techniques used to make it, but those are both features. Other than when a design makes good use of fabric scraps or come together quickly, I can't think of benefits to include. Do you have any suggestions for how I can think differently about my designs to see the benefits for potential buyers? Okay, then she says something else. She read the 4 Tendencies and enjoyed it based on what I answered her last time. I'm glad to hear it. So, devoted quilter. Yeah, so you're not selling the finished quilts. You're selling the finished design. Here's the question to answer when you're thinking about features and benefits. What do people look for in a quilt pattern? What makes them love a quilt pattern and what makes them hate a quilt pattern? And guess what? It's not actually the design. I'd say 90% of what I'm looking for in a pattern is ease of reading. Do I get the results you promised me I'm going to get? Do you explain everything I need to know? And does it come together without being very fiddly, with it being kind of clear and obvious what it is I'm doing? That's what matters. So your features might be your length of time that you've been teaching people how to quilt, your own experience. The features might be the length of the pattern, what kind of instructions you include in the pattern. Are there photos in the pattern? Are there things that people print out in the pattern and like cut out, like with sewing patterns, right? There's the actual patterned paper. What is included? How does it work? How does it come together? Those are features. So then the benefit is, how does that make the pattern easier, better, easier to read? So you guys know I love One Girl Circus Karen. She does clothing sewing patterns, and all of her experience and all of her knowledge about pattern drafting and all of her knowledge about fit and fitting individual bodies, those are all features, and how she writes the pattern or how long it is or what it includes as a feature. The benefit is you get a dress you're actually going to love. You get a pattern that's easy to use. The benefit is like you end up with a product you like, and the whole time of sewing it is a joy while you're doing it. So that's your features and benefits you're going to focus on, not actually the quilt. Now, if it uses scraps beautifully, if it's a way for them to learn something, like say your quilt is teaching them color value, or it's teaching them a technique like English paper piecing, or it's a chance to practice their own design sensibilities, or it's something like that, those are the benefits. What they're going to learn, the experience that they're going to have while sewing it, the finished product is only a small part of a design. Now, if you are selling your finished quilts, obviously and one thing I totally skipped, self-expression. If you go back and you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which if you guys have taken a class with me about marketing, you know I often teach Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is the needs that we have as human beings. Makers always say, well, my product doesn't fill a need, because they're thinking the base of the hierarchy of needs is clothing, shelter, food. Your handmade product probably doesn't fulfill those needs, but the higher levels, most people who are going to buy your product have the shelter, clothing, food, warmth. The next level is love and belonging. Often we sell things that help people belong to a community. Devoted Quilter, I know you have a community. People can participate in quilt-alongs. That's why quilt-alongs are so big, is they allow people, their purchase, not only is their purchase, but another benefit is the community and the sense of belonging and getting their questions answered. And then the higher need than that is a sense of self-expression. If you're selling any designs, whether it's knitting, sewing, stitching, whatever, your benefit is the way that the person can express the thing they want to express. So maybe it's very colorful and neon. Now I know people can pick their own patterns, but like that helps them express that side of their personality. Maybe it is like very traditional or refined or elegant. It helps them express that side of their personality. The quilt pattern that they choose to follow is saying something about themselves. Their self-expression is going to come through your pattern design. That's a benefit. You want to think about what your people tell you about their patterns, what they love about your patterns. That's what you want to focus on for your benefits. So not so much the just like physical dimensions, but the actual content that's in the pattern and then the results of sewing a pattern. Does that help? I hope that helps. Okay, so next up is Christmas Tree Gifts is her name on Instagram, or it could be a he, probably a she. I know this isn't a question for most crafters, but how do you keep control of sales if you don't want to scale your business or hire or outsource help? As in, how do you not get so many sales you can't handle it? Now, she said that this is probably not a lot of people's questions, but I just had a conversation about this in the Starship, so you're not alone. One of the things, the first thing I have to say is that people worry about this usually far before they get to this point. So I worried about what it would be like to scale my business when in fact there was no more work associated with scaling it. At different points in my business, scaling it didn't bring any more work. It just meant I was reaching more people. But I thought if I work this much now and I reach this many people, to reach this many people, I'm going to have to work that much more. No. In many cases, no. Because you're going to be able to streamline things, because you're going to be able to buy things at a lower cost when you can buy more of it. Now, that's not true always. Like, there are instances where more sales, like you're going to have to make more products. You might get faster at making the products. You might sell more of products that are easier to make. That would be the ideal thing. I walk you actually through all of this and Pay Yourself, how many things you have to make to meet your goal, and how can you focus on the things that will be the most profitable when it comes to where you're increasing your sales, so that you're not increasing your sales but also increasing your expenses. So if you need that help with that math, you can go to taraswiger.com/pay, and we talk about that in Pay Yourself as one of the many areas that we investigate profitability. But so first, you are maybe, and I don't know Christmas tree gifts, you might be at peak. So we're going to talk about if you're at like peak, I can't handle this anymore. But if you are not yet to that point, I don't want you to worry what it'll be like at that point. What I always tell my people is you are going to become the maker, the business owner that you need to be when you're there. And that business owner might know software that's going to help make them easier. They might have streamlined their studio so that things go faster. They might have figured out how to scale up in ways that you haven't figured out yet. So the first thing, if you're worried about hitting too many sales, is to look at your systems. Is it easy? Is it simple and straightforward and effective and efficient as it could be, and still be fun, and still be doing what you want to do? Right? So you don't want to like get robot arms to come in and do it if you enjoy the making yourself. The second thing is if you are truly like you've made too many sales and you want to scale back, or if you are a service provider and you have like too many clients. This was the Starship captain I was talking to. She was like, this is what she said. My business has hit the goal I had for my business in 5 years, which is awesome, but I don't want the business I wanted in 5 years because my children are small. And for these years where they're small, I don't want to work like at that level yet. And she was struggling with like, is this okay? First of all, yes, it's totally okay. You're allowed to have the exact business you want to have. Yay! So you can scale down as much as you like. The easiest, fastest way to scale down is to stop marketing. So I would not stop doing Instagram or sending newsletters, but stop doing sales, specials, sign up to get this free thing. Scale back on all of that. The second way the reason why I say not to stop Instagram or emails is because when you want to spike sales sometime in the future, when you're ready to grow, or if things slow down to a point and you want to pump them back up, you want to still be having a relationship. You don't want to disappear entirely and then try to come back. That's much harder. It's actually harder for you to stay consistent with. It's harder for you to know who your audience is. It's harder for you to connect with them. Just keep getting the practice of sharing on social media regularly, even if you don't want to scale up your business. Just don't promote your business a lot. Like, you can still be showing up on Instagram without, like, I can show up on Instagram every day and not link to my podcast, tell you about my books, tell you about my classes, just to stay in the practice of doing it. Okay? The second way to scale back your business is to raise your prices. Super simple. What I love about this is that I have walked so many people through raising their prices and Pay Yourself, and every person either sees an increase in total sales, like more people actually buy at the higher price, or they see no change in sales, but they're seeing more profit. So they're doing the same level of work and they're making more money. And I recommend people raise their prices until the sales start to slow down, especially if you're scaling too fast and you have too many sales. Bump up your prices by $1, $2, Sales don't slow down, bump them another $1 or $2. Keep going until you get to the point where you are like, okay, good, so sales have slowed down. And then don't freak out because you did this on purpose. And at that point where they slow down, then you can switch your marketing to marketing your higher profit items, because now your items are higher profit, so you can make the same amount of money and sell fewer products. And if this, talking about raising your price, you have weirdness about, you're feeling like, oh no, that would be gross, then you're not realizing that selling too much when your price is low means that your price is actually too low for the market. Like, it's not, you raising your price isn't because you're slimy and you're money grubbing. It's that you actually don't have your product priced appropriately for what people want to pay for it. And that means you're undervaluing your work, your customers, and your product. So it's all about kind of reevaluating what that value is, how you're communicating it. It's not about just making more money. It's about understanding the real value of your thing. And if you're wanting, here's the real heart of it, is that I want you to have a sustainable business, and I don't want you to burn out. And your customers who love your product and keep buying it don't want you to burn out. They want you to be sustainable. That might mean you need to shift to a higher price point, which, by the way, not everybody's going to love, but that's going to be able to keep you sustainable and keep you doing it long term. So that is the easiest way to slow down sales. To slow down scaling quickly is to raise your prices. I talked with Starship Captain. If she will raise her prices, which she did, and she still had the same customers. So then you can just stop. If you have a service-based business, you can just stop taking on new clients. You can just not take on any new clients. Or when you take on clients, say, I can, yes, I have an opening, but give yourself a long window. So if the problem is actually that you're working too many hours, you might be taking clients on with too short of a window. This is especially true for knitwear designers who do publishing deals, and tech editors, and really kind of any writer or designer who's working with a publisher, and publisher could be like magazines or yarn companies or whatever. Make your timeline longer. So you don't have to work 10-hour days to hit your timeline. You can work 5-hour days and hit it in twice the amount of time. So I hope that helps. Many of you will be going, oh my goodness, slow down my sales. I don't want to slow down my sales. So the answer is not to do the opposite of what I said. It's not to go crazy posting the sales all the time, and it's not to lower your price point. Your job is to do more effective marketing and to make sure you're looking at directly who your audience is if you want to increase sales. So you can't just do the opposite and have the same effect. Okay, so next question is from Brenda. Brenda said, so this question, a lot of people ask this. So she said, for an Etsy shop, do you think it's better to have a low shipping cost that just equates to the postage, or a higher one that includes labor costs, packaging costs, etc., or should you offer free shipping as an incentive? So I just charge the shipping. People know what shipping costs. Add in your labor costs, your packaging into your pricing. So in Pay Yourself, we actually look at packaging as part of your cost of goods sold, right? Because you have to have the same packaging each time you sell a thing. So include that in the price of your item. You should be folding that in before you even price your item. And you need to do that when you sell at retail, because you're gonna, if you sell wholesale, if you ever wanna sell wholesale, that needs to already be counted in. So I just charge shipping for what shipping costs. And if you want to offer free shipping as an incentive, I would do it as a time-bound thing, because it's really easy to lose a lot of money on that. Whenever I ship free anywhere in the world, it costs $20 and $30 to ship to Canada and Australia. So unless your profit margin is over $20 or $30 per item, that's going to be way too expensive. Next question is from Francesca Abram. I'm going to guess on your name, Francesca Abram. Hi Tara, I'd like advice on what to do when business takes a slump due to factors outside of your control. For example, Brexit, consumer confidence, ? Shruggy emoji. Thanks. If your sales are taking a slump, I'm glad that you recognize that many, many things are outside of your control. Here's the crazy thing. At every point in your business, a million things are going on that are outside of your control. Your best customers are losing their jobs, or they're sending their kid to college, or their 401k just crashed. That's always happening. So everything in your business isn't necessarily like you just didn't do enough or you're not doing the right thing. There's a lot of outside forces at work, some you don't even know about, like maybe Etsy changed their algorithm, maybe Instagram changed their algorithm, maybe someone started up with the exact same product and their name is just like one letter off from yours and they're sucking up your Google traffic. I don't know. The main thing to focus on is the stuff you have control over. So my favorite thing to do when you're feeling flustered is make a big list of everything you think impacts your sales, or you could do to impact your sales, and break it up into things I have no control over, things I have control over. So you don't have control over if somebody buys, if somebody has a job, if somebody has expendable income. You do have control over who you're talking to and who your marketing is going to, and who is the audience that you're focused on, and what is your pricing points, and where are you selling your items? Like what kind of shops are you selling your items in? How many shops are you reaching out to a week to have your item in their shop? So years ago, this is how long I've been in business. In the 2007, 2008 financial crash, a lot of retail shops closed. And a lot of my friends with handmade businesses found that their wholesale income just crashed because the shops are closing. They used to sell their items. So it's not even like, and they can help that, right? It's the shop's decision to close. So instead, many of them focus their time and energy on online sales. Now today, that's where a lot of you start. So if you find that your online sales are crashing, take it out into the real world. Contact shops, do craft shows. If your craft shows are crashing because you're in England and you're going through Brexit, go online and reach out to other markets. Make sure that your shipping to America is really good. Make sure that you are regularly collaborating or sending samples or talking to people outside of your economic, whatever is going on in your economic world, right? Because Brexit isn't affecting US spending. And I know many of you choose not to do international shipping, or it just seems like a huge hassle, but you got to ask yourself, what are the parts of my business I can change to get through this? It was interesting is I've seen a big uptick in my UK customers. Like I'm making more sales to the UK. I don't know if it's because a lot more people are starting their own business or what. I think it's because I've focused on the UK. I went to the UK back in 2006 and but that's like, just because an economic thing is impacting your business, you got to keep in mind it's not impacting all the businesses. So what are they doing? What could you do that would reach different people who aren't being impacted in the same way? I hope that helps. But yes, make a big list of what's in your control, what's outside of your control. Throw away the list of what's outside of your control and don't think about it anymore. Now things are going to come up and you're going to be like, oh wow, that happened because there was an election and people went crazy and lost their consumer confidence because of the election. That's good to know, but it's outside my control, so I'm not going to focus on it. Instead, I'm going to do these 5 things that are within my control. So I hope that helps, Francesca. I'm sorry that you're having a slump because of stuff going on in the world. That's super frustrating. I don't enjoy that. Thank you all for sending in your questions. As a reminder, follow me on Instagram. I'm at Swiger. You can leave a comment when I do a Q&A post. You can leave a comment anytime and tell me how you liked this post. But when I do a Q&A episode, that's when you can ask your questions and I'll answer them here. And I answer questions every month inside the Starship, which is not open now, but you can always check it out at taraswiger.com/starshipbiz and sign up to be notified when it opens again in several months. And the other thing we talked about today is figuring out where your price point should be based on your cost of goods sold. And we talked about how to raise your prices and how to make sure that you're scaling up without increasing your expenses. You can learn how to do all that in my class, Pay Yourself. It's at taraswiger.com/pay. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a fabulous, profitable day with lots of enthusiasm. Bye.